Hello, this is the first in a series of videos addressing the installation of Cisco Modeling Labs version 1.2. In this module, we'll examine the interface requirements of Cisco Modeling Labs. We'll start by reviewing the network connectivity requirements for Cisco Modeling Labs and then look at some of their applications. Next, we'll examine the topology to be used for our installation. We'll then follow that with a demonstration that prepares the adjacent switch for an ESXi-based installation of Cisco Modeling Labs. Before launching into the software installation, let's consider our interface requirements and how we will integrate Cisco Modeling Labs into our environment. Up to 7 interfaces may need to be accounted for. First is the Platform Management Interface. On Cisco UCS servers, this is a dedicated port known as the CMC interface, and typically uses a static IP address assignment. The CMC interface is used for remote console access and, if needed, to access the virtual media resources. Next is the ESXi management port. This also employs a statically assigned IP address and is used to manage the VMware hypervisor and its virtual machines. Then we need to account for the 5 network interfaces required by Cisco Modeling Labs. The first is the CML management interface that is used for system administration as well as the launching and control of the simulations. There are 3 interfaces used for external communications. These are known as the FLAT, FLAT1, and SNAT. The first 2 provide Layer 2 bridged access for external networks to the virtual nodes within the simulation. The SNAT, or Static Network Address Translated, provides a Layer 3 based interface into the simulation. The last interface is called the INT interface and is reserved for the clustering feature to be added at a later date. The VMware hypervisor offers flexibility in how these interfaces are mapped to the available NICs installed on the server. ESXi allows some of these to be virtualized as VLANs across the 8021Q trunk. In addition to CML system administration, the CML server's management interface is also the primary means to access the virtual nodes within a running simulation. If enabled, an out-of-band management network may also be configured that allows users other than the project owner to access a simulation's virtual nodes. These other users would use a standard terminal emulator to access the simulation through one of the external communication interfaces. Alternatively, this bridged interface may be used to integrate physical network devices to the simulated topology, with other users employing in-band management to access the virtual nodes. By employing 2 such bridged interfaces, distinct physical networks may be interconnected to the simulated topology. An example scenario may be 2 access sites traversing a simulated core. And the SNAT interface provides a Layer 3 gateway that hides the details of the simulation's virtual nodes from the attached physical environment. Now let's examine the demonstration environment we'll be using in our video series. In our setup, we will be connecting to our UCS server through the depicted access switch. The graphic shows a dedicated connection for the CMC port connected to the Gigabit Ethernet 103 interface. A second link from the server provides for ESXi management and is connected to the switch's Gigabit Ethernet 104. We now add the interfaces associated with the Cisco Modeling Labs deployment. In this demo, we will add the CML management interface to the same subnet as the one used to manage the ESXi host. This will leverage the existing link. For the other interfaces, we will add a third connection between the server and the switch using the indicated ports. This new link will be configured as an 8021Q trunk and set to carry the indicated VLANs. We will add the appropriate switch configuration elements to enable the trunk interface and the listed VLANs. For testing convenience, we'll also add access port interfaces for each of these VLANs. These will be used to validate external communications to the associated virtual devices associated with these interfaces. Here we have a terminal session established with our access switch, a Catalyst 3750. This switch is pretty close to a default configuration with minimal alterations to start. Looking at the VLAN database, we find that all the switch ports are still in the default VLAN. Looking at our interfaces, the first 4 are already configured as to allow our installation of the ESXi hypervisor. All 4 are set for access mode or in the default VLAN. Notice Gigabit Ethernet 104 is presented to the ESXi vSwitch 0 to which the VM kernel interface is associated. Let's enter configuration mode and enter the VLANs we'll be using. Now, we will add another connection to the host using the next available port on our switch. This connection will be set as a trunk so it may carry the rest of our required interfaces. Though it will not be initially used, the INT interface must still be present during the software installation process. As we build our solution, there will be phases where we need to verify our external communications. It will be helpful to have predefined access ports as members of these VLANs from which we can do these checks. For convenience, we'll add DHCP pools to offer addresses to stations plugged into these test ports. These pools will be configured to exclude addresses that may conflict with those are used or assigned by OpenStack elements within Cisco Modeling Labs. And then we'll add the virtual interfaces associated with the DHCP pools. This completes the necessary switch setup for our Cisco Modeling Labs install. A quick review of our configuration shows our DHCP setup, our configured interfaces, and our virtual IP interfaces associated with each of our VLANs. In this video, we examined the network connections needed for a Cisco Modeling Labs deployment. This included the management interfaces for the server platform, the ESXi VM kernel, and for the CML application. We also looked at the interfaces supporting external communications and how they might be used. There are a variety of options that can be used to integrate Cisco Modeling Labs into a test environment, which can be influenced by several factors. These include the server's available network interface ports, your network management and vSphere management policies, as well as other considerations. We then looked at the integration we will use for our installation. This method was used as it works for the most basic server platform fitted with 2 generally available NIC ports. Our demonstration walked through the basic aspects of preparing an access switch for a CML deployment.